This is following on Ash's inquest. I'm Jon Norman. He's Steve Harmison. We've had the Violin Geek 15 messages. England lost without Josh Hazlewood and Pat Cummins in the Aussie team. The job security for Key and Baz is unbelievable. I want that job. You need to respect the game, and that starts with proper prep, as Harmy says. Harmy says a lot of it makes sense. In fact, most of it makes sense. It's quite difficult to argue against on or off air. And we do talk about cricket nearly as much. Well, actually, we talk about cricket more off air than we do on air.
But it's good to disagree.
Well, it is good to disagree. And that's one of the things about cricket. You can disagree. Weak men. You can't have weak men in the dressing room. That is, Stokes has spoken to Aggers. I know you're not supposed to mention other broadcasters. I don't care. I thought that Aggers and Michael Vaughan and Glenn McGrath, I listened to something they did. They sounded really depressed. Yeah. But they made a great point. One of the points Aggers made was there's no accountability because there's no other backup keeper and there's no other opening batter and there's nobody else. So just go out there, boys, do whatever you want, and then we'll change it at the end of the series. But listening to what Stokes has to say about weak individuals or weak men, you know, this England team don't chop and change mid-series. I mean, the bowlers get rotated and rested, we know. But you got a feeling that they're going to make some changes here, Harmy. The problem is, what choices do they have and who's going to go and what are they going to do?
I mean, they can't. They've got no choices. We said that this is going to be the top seven till the end. You mentioned there, Smith in, Pope in the glove, Smith out the team, Bethel possibly. He got 71. And I mean, if we're talking about making changes, let's be fair. And as much as I think Jacob Bethel's got a huge amount of talent, I mean, we're bringing somebody in who's got one adult 100 into an Ashes cauldron and when we're 2-0 down. Yeah, it'd be so unfair on him, or probably the only one in the Lions trip that scored any proper runs up until, this week. You look at Emilio Gay, I don't think he's anywhere near ready. You've got the next one, Thomas and James Rue, one's 90, one's 20, and the other one's 17. They're the only ones that's making runs, really.
Mate, they'll all be in for Sydney. You know how it works.
Yeah, they'll be close to it. I mean, Scott Borthwick moment, Mason Crane moment. There's somebody coming.
Boyd Rankin.
I thought it was Boyd Rankin. I thought it was a bowler. I think it might be Matt Fisher or something like that. But I mean, you go with what you've got. The one thing that Brendon McCullum has done, he's going to die by his sword. You've lived by it, you die by it. He's been very protective of maybe 16 or 17 players, whatever reason, right? Whether he doesn't want to bring anybody in from the outside, he doesn't really. I mean, Cameron Ponsonby's, I've got to mention that. Cameron Ponsonby's tweet yesterday was, I mean, that's priceless. I would love to have said that, but I have to credit him to it. When he said, England have got so much disregard for county cricket, and a bloke who's got 5 for now has been bowling 15 overs with a keeper standing up. I mean, we've got no regard for county cricket. So we're not bringing anybody in from that are battle hardened, that have been through the mill, who have got an education and a background in the grind of county cricket, which possibly skill-wise is not up to playing Test cricket. But they won't get the wicket away as easy as Zach Crawley did in first Test match. Ollie Pope did in this Test match. That's the thing with McCullum. He has basically said, right, you 16 lads, until he took the one-day job, you're the only ones I want to work with. And I'm not bothered about the rest. I don't care. These are good lads. It's a good time. Let's go and have these buzzwords of enjoying tours and the best time of your life and fulfill your dreams, and you could be doing a lot of worse things. All these things that is nice for McCullum to say, but you've actually got to give them a little bit in the middle, which is their grounding of an education of how you play Test match cricket.
Harmy,
we look miles and miles away, and I think what's coming on to roost from Ben's point of view, just to finish off, is that he wanted to say, did he want to say we're soft? Did he want to say we're soft? We've got a soft underbelly. I think there's a lot of us been saying it, and not just the guys on TNT or the guys on TMS. I mean, NASA and others have been brilliant listening to them. I agree. But the one consistent thing we've been saying, John, we've all been saying the same things. So somebody's got it right and somebody's got it wrong. And unfortunately for me, the ones that I think who have got it wrong are the ones that are insular in this bubble of ECB, pathway, coaches only letting bowlers bowl 12 overs, no warm-up games because we don't want to let anybody see what we're doing. Nobody letting you see what they're doing is getting beat 2-0. And that potentially is probably, and I don't think he will be bothered. I'll take that back. I really didn't mean that. But Brendon McCullum, he goes off and goes into an IPL job.
He is bothered, mate. He is. Look, you could just look at his picture of him. You know, look, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen him with his feet up, almost looking like he's snoozing, come what may, right? And that's been his approach to cricket. And you only have to listen to Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson about what he brought to that dressing room. I mean, he convinced those guys. And if you can convince those guys, then pretty much you can convince anyone, right? To a point.
But they had
hang on. But Brendon McCullum has his own personal demons when it comes to Australia as well. You know, this all works to a point. But at the end of the day, the camera picked up on him on day 2, and he did not look like the chilled out, relaxed Brendon McCullum that we've got used to over the last 4 years. He looked stressed. He looked pained, and he had fear in his eyes. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, it reminds me of the MCG, 2015. And Brendon McCullum and the New Zealand cricket team under his stewardship had lit the tournament up with their approach to ODI cricket. And he gets his team to the final of the World Cup, the 2015 World Cup final against you-know-who, Australia at the MCG. And he walks out, and as he's opening the batting with Martin Guptill, he walks to the crease, and Brad Haddin, I think, was keeper for Australia, runs past. And Brad, who, by the way, I've really enjoyed a lot of Brad's commentary. Good. Really good. He's an astute reader of the game and communicates well. And actually, he's a completely different person to the person I thought he was watching him play. Yeah. And he runs past Baz and he goes, "You going to go for it today, Baz?" And Baz looks at him and goes, "You bet I am." Bowled second ball. Yeah. Mitchell Stark pitching it up. Argent. And exactly. Took his eyes off the ball. Literally took his eyes off the ball. He spoke about it afterwards. Out for a duck. New Zealand never recovered. He knows what this is like to lose in Australia. It is the worst nightmare for any English, Indian or New Zealand cricketer. And he was watching the horror unfold in this test match. He was watching it.
Yeah, but it comes back to the processes that all buzzwords that the coaches do. You know, you've got to get your sort of ducks in a row, and England haven't getting their ducks in a row, and that may be anything to do with Baz, because he's a mentor. He's not a coach. And we're not wanting technical coaches. You mentioned Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad. They were world-class performers before Baz got anywhere near the team.
It's a great point.
They didn't need coaching. Stokes doesn't need coaching. Root doesn't need coaching.
But some of them do, Harmy, don't they? And this is the problem. This one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. We hear the stories from the players that come out of that dressing room because they're deemed not to be part of the team for performance, you know, at times, but also sometimes because of personality. And we hear that. Look, we're both football and cricket guys. We both have a team. They're both playing black and white. And our teams that play in black and white share players, past and present, and managers. And one of the managers that we both had was Kevin Keegan. Yeah. And when Brendon McCullum took over, the change in the team reminded me of the kind of change that used to happen when Kevin Keegan would take over a club. He was a confidence manager. He was about, not only was he an attacking player when he played, he was an attacking coach, right? Mm-hmm. And he would breathe life into the dressing room. He would give confidence where there was none. He would pick players up. Suddenly players were playing with their shoulders back. It was all about attack. And he didn't win anything. No. And at the end of the day, whilst we all of a certain era love to look back at the Kevin Keegan, Alex Ferguson era, and we loved it. We loved it. There is a period where you need more than that. Yeah. You need to have tactical acumen. And in this Ashes, it seems to me that England have not had that tactical acumen, and they have been found out. Now, listening to Stokes, it's not about tactical acumen. It's about bottle. I mean, maybe he's right, but that just seems a bit simplistic. I think it's easier to say that. What's more difficult is knowing when to press go and when to hold back, when to play the conditions, when to play the game, when to play. You know, all summer we were hearing about England are playing Bazball Mark, 2.0, smart Bazball. I haven't seen that in this series. And I don't know. I mean, some players have looked like they've really struggled. I talked about Jamie Smith. I think he is quality. I never really saw him as a wicketkeeper batter. I thought he was a better batter than a wicketkeeper. I think, do you know what? Play him at 3 and give Pope the gloves. I think England should go to these players and say, you got us into this mess. You get us out. They're going to Adelaide now, right? No outrageous bounce. No pink ball. Proper cricket ground, right? You got us into this mess. You get us out.
Yeah, and I mean that was the mentality that I said before this Test match. I think you might need to change it because of if Ben's saying what he's saying, he's seen things.
Yeah,
he's seen things that we haven't.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's seen things we haven't. He's looked around that dressing room and he's picked up on a few things that he doesn't like.
Yeah.
Now, if he doesn't like it, he normally acts. I mean, Ollie Robinson's never played again off the back of, something that Ben Stokes and Brendon McCullum didn't like. If Ben's going hard at people's character like he has done. He's not called him soft, but he's come close to it. Then he might have to change. The problem he has is all the personnel changes he's got are in the bowling department and not in the batting department. And unfortunately, it's the batting department that is the issue. So we probably will see Jacob Bethel at Adelaide. Adelaide, you're right, will not bounce as much as what it will. But it might move sideways, drop in pitch, put a green grass on it. It might move sideways. So somewhere like Potts could come into the equation. But at the end of the day, I think Ben's got to have a conversation with McCullum and Key and go, which ones do we think is really up for the fight in the cause? Because we've been here before, 2023, we were 2-0 down. There were circumstances going into that third Test match, which I think galvanised the England cricket team going forward. I'm not so sure Gus Atkinson getting 2 wickets and Jofra Archibald at 150 kilometres an hour for 10 overs is galvanising going into Adelaide. And I'm talking about the best of broad stuff at Lord's. England are going to have to find a way of somehow picking themselves up. They're going off golfing. Alistair Cook's just said a 4-day golf trip planned and booked. Whether that changes, I'm not sure. I personally, I would send them on it to get away from the game, because at the end of the day, this game's killing them.
It's 10 days, mate. They've got to be in Australia somewhere.
Yeah, but what I will say is, look into what you want. Jason Gillespie tweeted something yesterday, and Dizzy's not somebody. It's not. I mean, if it's coming from Darren Lehman, if it's coming from Brad Haddon, I'm going, somebody's trying to play, trying to be naughty and trying to be funny and trying to be clever and trying to stick one over. When Dizzy's a coach and he's a serious character and he's a great man, and Jason Gillespie's talking about England not preparing at the Wacker. How many times they've prepared under lights? I know for a fact that there was a lot of issues with, getting, I think, grounds sorted for England to prepare for the first and the second Test match. And I think Dizzy picked up on that. And if he's seeing it, it's a serious point. It's not a jovial point. It's a serious point, because he's a coach and he's a coaching man. And that, if some of that's true and there is something in that, I think England have got a lot more problems than just nicking off driving from 5-metre mark. Because if there is issues with how they've prepared and they haven't been able to get it because they haven't booked it in time or whatever, then wow, that's a problem.